Morning, Coach.
Morning, you guys.
All right,
Apologize.
we're going to go right into questions. Our first question today will be from Chad Leistico.
Sure. Hi, Chad.
Hey Jay, how you doing?
Doing well. Thank you.
Awesome, awesome. Hey, Minnesota of all teams seems like it's been about the most reliable in how it attacks you guys. You look at the ball control numbers they've had, especially over the last 3 years. Yet at the same time, you guys have been, you know, uh, susceptible to bigger passing plays thus far this year. So, how do you expect Minnesota to attack you guys this week? Is what I'm asking.
I don't think they'll get outside their personality, but within their personality, I'm sure they'll probably try to expose the things that they've seen us have problems with up until now. That's going to be the case in point until, we've shown opponents that we're able to stop the things that have hurt us. That's kind of copycat football, if you will, throughout the season. That's going to be ongoing. I think every week you got to look at what you did, not only the previous game, but throughout the course of the season that other people are going to be watching and try to prepare yourself to be able to, to stop it and do a better job against it when it presents itself again.
Tom Kakert.
Hey, Tom.
Hey Jay, hope you're doing well.
Yeah.
Wanted to ask you about the four freshmen that we haven't got to see yet, the scholarship players, and how they have developed along the defensive line so far.
Well, there's not a lot to report there simply because they're all on scout team right now. We do get a little time at the end of practice on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays, particularly Tuesdays and Wednesdays with those guys, where they get to work our schemes and stuff. But honestly, probably 75% of the practice they're on the offensive side of the field, being scout team guys for the special teams or scout team guys for the offense. So they're working hard. They're trying to do what they can do, but they're just limited opportunity this time of the year once you get beyond training camp. So next week will be a big week, with a bye and some time to get to spend with the younger guys, and then another bye week later on, and then hopefully if we can make a bowl game, there'll be bowl prep time. But uh, it's just it's a tough time of the year for young guys in a redshirt situation to be able to progress.
John Steppe.
Hi, Jay. Good to see you.
Hey, John, good to see you as well.
I was wanting to ask about the big plays. Kind of what kind of uncharacteristic for you guys? What do you kind of attribute those to, and what do you think can be done to kind of remedy that?
Well, I think you're always looking at better ways to coach things. A lot of there's not any one particular theme with the probably you're referring to the three pass plays. One time I think again I'm not the secondary coach. Obviously, Phil would be able to best answer those questions, but a lot of times it's eye discipline. Maybe not seeing the things that you've been coached to look at, and getting your eyes, wandering into spots. On other players or other parts of the field where they shouldn't be. And as you guys know, it only takes a step or two to get yourself out of position, and you can get hurt. And so I'm sure those are things that are being discussed, corrected, and worked on the practice field. And hopefully we've eliminated that and can put it behind us. But it's usually eye discipline, and just understanding what it is you're supposed to be seeing and reacting to.
Corey Breda.
Hey, Coach. Good to see you this morning.
You as well.
Wanted to ask you about Jeff Bowie. I know he's dealt with
Yeah.
a ton of injuries over the course of his career, and it just feels like he would be the type of story that Hawkeye fans would love to see transpire if he could stay healthy and give some production. Can you give
Mhm.
us an update on his status? And had he worked during camp when he was healthy? Had he gotten to a point where you felt like he was potentially a rotational guy this year?
I think coming out of well, not we weren't out of training camp yet, but at the point in time in camp when he had his injury, I felt like he was on a projection, a trajectory, if you will, to where he was going to be a guy that we would be ready to have put into a game and count on getting some snaps for us. He has obviously been through several weeks of rehab, and just this week got back out on the field full time. Went through full padded practice, well, whatever we were wearing Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. He was out there and he was doing everything everybody else was. So we just got to make sure that we're not bringing him along too far and too fast. But he's in a good spot. I expect before long we'll be able to get him out in the field and having us to be able to contribute. So looking forward to that. He's making good progress.
Adam Jacoby.
Jay, thank you so much for your time today. I wanted to ask about the sort of 4 defensive end pass rush teams that you've had, especially on third downs. I guess, how have you evaluated that package's performance so far in the first 3 weeks of the season?
Well, there's 2 different ways to look at it. One is what's happening on first and second down, when we've got tackles and noses in the game along with the 2 ends. So, on first and second down, obviously Ethan and Deontay have been the starters. They've been very consistent, played well. Brian, Allen, and Max Llewellyn have come in rotational play on first and second down. Haven't had as many of those kind of reps, but have done a good job continuing to progress. And I like where they're at and the progress that they're making. Third down now, that's obviously a little bit different animal. We've gone to a situation now where we put the 4 of those ends out on the field together, and largely it's just due to their movement skills and production. We feel like we can still rush with YA and Aaron out there, and some of the other inside guys if we want to do that or need to do that. But the 4 of those guys working together right now, especially these last couple ball games, has really produced some a good quality of play and a lot of disruption. And we're getting some hits on the quarterback, some sacks, knocking some balls down, being disruptive back there. So I think they're really doing a good job. But we really ask all of our D linemen to know all those spots. And so that can fluctuate a little bit from week to week. But right now, those 4 ends out there together on third down is a good combination of people that we like.
Thanks.
Elliot Clough.
Morning, Jay. Good to see you. I wanted to ask a couple questions to go off Corey's question about Jeff. When he's healthy, what does he bring to the defensive line? And then the second thing is, YA told us that the older guys have started referring to Devin Kennedy, the freshman, as Unk.
Oh.
And I guess I'm just curious what your read is of his personality, and because I've talked to him a little bit, and he just he communicates like he's 40. So. Yeah.
He gives you that illusion. I'm sure when he's with the guys that he's way more like one of them than one of us adults. That's for sure. But it's a really good room. These guys get along well. Obviously, they've got a lot in common and that they do together and spend time outside of football, which is really good. It trickles on over into the room. But yeah, he kind of presents himself as a kind of more adult, more mature. Way he dresses, the way he talks and acts and all that. But I'm sure there's plenty of times outside the room and outside the field where, he's more or less just one of those guys. But yeah, a lot of fun. As far as it relates to Jeff, specifically, I'm not sure what it is you wanted to know, but he's doing, like I said, doing a good job. He's in a good spot. He's working hard. I think, where he's maybe a little bit different than some of the guys that have played behind Aaron and YA, as he's got that length, that 6'4", 6'5", or whatever he is, somewhere in that range, that we like to have inside. Just helps us be able to separate from blocks better and do some things push-pull wise in the pass rush game. And he does have an knack for that. So fortunately, we're getting more opportunities to see him, especially this last week, like we did in camp. And hopefully, as we see more of it, he'll continue to progress and work his way back out on the field and help us win some ball games on Saturdays.
John Steppe.
Where have you seen YA grow kind of over the last couple of years, particularly in ways that maybe don't show up on the box score?
Well, that's an interesting question. He's always been a really mature football player and a mature guy in general. Probably just his leadership within the room in terms of helping younger guys. I think he's always really had a good handle on football and had a good high football IQ. Now where it's really affecting the rest of the room is by how he's pulling guys aside and just teaching them the little intricacies of the position and really sharing his knowledge and expertise in that area. And I know it's one thing for a coach to tell a player something, and then it's another thing for a player to tell a player something, as long as that player is respected, which he obviously is. But he's really doing a great job in that area, and we appreciate not only his quality of play on the field, but what he does in the meeting room with these guys.
Chad?
Yeah, I'm sure the defensive guys are annoyed by giving up big plays. So I know that's something that you guys preach time and time again. So knowing that that's probably an emphasis this week, how do you make sure also that they're not, playing too soft against a team like Minnesota that has shown it's willing to just take 4 or 5 yards at a time if you give it to them?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, and that can happen, particularly when you're talking about corners and isolated safeties. If you get beat deep a couple times, it's pretty easy to kind of give yourself a little more cushion, a little bit more room, and then maybe you're too timid on some stuff that's more intermediate and short range. So just got to trust that their skill set. Obviously, some guys, depending on what their movement skills are like, can afford to play tighter on receivers than others. You have to know what your assets and liabilities are. You also have to know what you match up against in terms of what that guy's assets and liabilities are. But certainly we don't want guys walking around on eggshells out there worried about making mistakes. You got to play aggressive, got to play hard, got to trust their eyes, and just do the things that they've been coached to do. And we'll have to hope that's what happens Saturday night.
Scott Docterman?
Jay, how's it going today?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing great. I wanted to ask you about kind of the pass rush because you guys lost 2 all-timers in Logan Lee and Joe Evans. I mean, who'd been multi-year starters, been important players for a long time. How do you feel like it has come along through 3 games? The numbers say it's good, but obviously you guys value disruption more than actual sacks. Where do you feel like are the strengths now with the pass rush? Do you feel like you are where you want to be at this stage of the season?
Well, I think, there's a lot of factors that come into play in terms of the statistical part of it. I couldn't even tell you where we stand in the country or the conference in terms of sacks. But what we're interested in doing is pressuring the quarterback as a unit. Sometimes that's one guy isolated on another. Sometimes it's different pick games and things that we have. Sometimes it's involving a fifth or a sixth rusher, out of the second or third level of the defense too. But what we're looking for is, are they making the progress on the field, practice field, of the things that we're trying to teach? And the answer to that question is yes, and they are continuing to climb and grow. Sometimes those numbers are going to be a little bit misleading as you get through the schedule and start playing some other teams. And in certain cases already this year, there have been plays where, when we've put the stopwatch on the snap to throw amount of time, that we have to get to the passer, it's underneath of 4 seconds. And I don't care if you're rushing a high school offensive lineman, you're not getting there. So it's a matter about trying to disrupt by getting your hands up and things like that. Those are the things that, even if you don't tip a ball, the disruption of the vision of the quarterback by getting your hands up, those things matter in terms of the overall outcome of the play when it's all said and done. So I think we're seeing the right kinds of things happen. Obviously, the more we can do it, the better. So we just got to continue to push forward. And, obviously the test is going to get tougher this week. So we'll continue to battle and work on it.
David Eichholt?
Hey, Jay, really appreciate you taking the time.
Sure.
Something that's interesting about your room, it just seems like when one guy makes a big play, it seems like everybody else is happier for that person to make the play than that person who actually does make the play. I'm just sort of curious. You guys have had strong leaders in the room. What's the key to kind of continuing the development of leadership and preparing guys to take leadership role and just kind of creating that culture that basically, one person wins, we all win, the defense ultimately wins?
Yeah, I think it just comes back to talk. I mentioned it earlier, we want to succeed as a group. We want to work together as a unit. And we have a saying in our room, like, nothing works unless we all work. And so we got to be together on it. And, we'll point out instances where we see teams where guys want to go celebrate a play individually after they make a play and run away from the rest of the unit, so to speak, to get their, airtime on TV and be publicized for it. And that's just not how we're trying to be. I think we all the guys in the room understand that it takes everybody together. Even if you're the guy that makes a play, somebody else probably had a hand in getting that set up for you or helping you with it. And the credit there'll be plenty to go around as long as everybody just does their job. Plays will come to you. If you just stay fundamentally sound and stick with your assignment, and then the biggest thing at all is you hope you go in the locker room winning a game, and then all those things come together and get reinforced.
For sure.
Sure.
All right, Coach, final question will be from Corey Breda.
Jay, I want to ask you, with this being the first road game of the year, about the travel team. How many D linemen do you typically travel? And I know Tom asked you earlier about first year guys. What, if any, first or second year guys will be going with the team up to Minneapolis this weekend?
We actually have that coverage of that information in our staff meeting this afternoon. That's kind of a Wednesday afternoon. It's not chiseled in stone yet, but the names get submitted to Coach Ferentz, and then he's got to decide, if we're over our number, what position group has to take a guy off, or what one possibly gets to add a guy. We've traveled as many as 10 to 12. I think 11 last week. Even though it was a home game, we still have a hotel list of guys that go. I'm not sure if that's going to fluctuate this week or not. We've got to get in there and first of all decide within the D-line room what that number looks like, and then on the defensive side of the ball as a whole, and then take it to Coach Ferentz, and he's got to weigh out offense, defense, and special teams all together, and then we'll come up with a consensus as a staff. So it's not a very good answer to your question, but that's kind of how the process will work.
All right, perfect. Appreciate your time this morning, Jay.
Okay. Thank you, guys. Appreciate
Have
you
a good
covering.
one. Yep.